Hello again, Struck Pub. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Torchlight 3, and this one is for the Railmaster class and the Blood Drinker subclass. It's Bloody Slams 2.0, another rework of an old build as requested from one of the viewers on YouTube, and this one is kind of in a very bad state right now as a setup, as a combination. Using Slammer with Blood Drinker, you really need damage from somewhere, and it's neither gonna be the Relic nor the Slammer skill tree. So anyone looking for a strong build with a lot of damage could stop this video at this point and just not watch the rest. If you like a build that's not meta, that doesn't do much damage, but at least provides you some interesting fun playstyle with survivability, draining the enemy's HP, healing yourself, and being a close range to warrior with AoEs and stuns and so on, maybe you can keep watching and hopefully you can enjoy this build. I really hope that the developers, after nerfing the Railmaster, would realize how this nerf was needed for the trains, but it wasn't needed for the Slammer, and by nerfing tier 2 of Lantern Flash, yeah, it's good. Trains are not as overpowered, they're still strong, but they don't feel super ridiculously strong. But Railmaster Slammers were already weak and really needed that extra 65% damage to slow enemies. Now without that, it feels like a swag killing enemies. See, the footage is on Mapworks without any extra added HP in the first year, with mediocre gear. And keeping that in mind, I think it's safe to say that the Slammer side of things needs a buff. Things like Pound, Spike Drive need a buff. And I also think that the things in the Blood Drinker that don't heal us need to be stronger, such as Dance of Death should be much stronger in damage terms. Here we are at the skills segment, where I'm going to show you the skills I've decided to take and to what level I've taken them and why. So before I move on any further with this, I'd like to mention right now the Railmaster Slammer skill tree is the most underpowered skill tree in the whole game. With that in mind, keep in mind that even the Cold Heart can give you more damage than the Slammer. And Cold Heart is the most underpowered relic, although it has good things like Ice Shield and maybe even Snowstorm can be considered very good, although not for damage. And even the Golem does a lot of damage but requires a lot of energy to get that damage. Compared to that, the Slammer is kind of super bad, and that is because we lost this Lantern Flash tier 2 used to give us 65% damage to blinded, slowed or stunned. Now it's only 10%, so it's barely worth investing into it. In fact, it's not really worth investing into it for just 10% damage. Some of you might still want to invest into that passive, and that's fine. I will talk about some of those things later. But Spike Drive needs a damage boost, Torque Swing needs a damage boost. Hammer Spin is fine, it's not supposed to give you damage. Pound needs a damage boost, and Blasting Charge is not there for damage, so I don't think it needs damage boost. But I would say Flying Picks also could use a damage boost for that skill tree. This one could also use a damage boost. I think the whole skill tree in general could use some more damage. Even things like Blasting Charge and Hammer Spin that are not supposed to be damaging skills could use a little bit extra damage, but I would be fine if those don't get damage, and if only the damage dealing skills, those 5 skills here, get a damage boost to make them worth taking. Now let's talk about why I've taken some of the skills. This one, Pound, it's pretty good. You can even take it to level 10 if you want to. If you don't want to take Torque Swing is the one thing you can remove or just keep as a passive only for the crit chance. And if you keep it for the crit chance, for the passive only, then you have 4 points, which I would put 2 points Spike Drive, 2 points Pound for extra damage, or 4 points Blasting Charge, or 4 points Lantern Flash, so you can get the passive. It is flexible, or you can even put 8 points and remove that crit chance and go and use Flying Picks. That's another version. You should be seeing some versions of the different ways to do the skills on your screen, and one of those should be with 8 points flying picks instead of 8 points torque swing. Now spike drive is there for damage, and again you might want to max it out to level 10 to over level it, so it's 10 plus 2. Good damage, but again not amazing. There's things that can do much more damage than that on the relic side of things, with things like Cold Heart, for example. Even the Golem does more damage than Spike Drive. Then Torque Swing, it's actually very bad. It's good for damage, it's okay for damage, but the problem with that is tier 1 bonus pulls the enemies, and you pull the enemies, and that's good, it's amazing. You can follow up with the melee, but no. That's not how it works. You pull the enemies and then you knock them away, which ruins the whole point of the pulling. This skill really needs a rework. They need to make it so that once you pull the enemies, they stay put and they don't get knocked away, so that the pull replaces the knock away. Or even better, allow us to change the tier 1 bonus to something else, and then allow us on every single skill that has a knockback, like this one and this one and this one, to convert the knockback to pull when we are using a melee skill. Like a little checkbox in the corner of the skill would suffice. That allows you to switch between pull or push, pull or knockback, and that would make melee builds so much more useful to play with knockback converted into pull. So yeah, it's not a bad skill, but it's really underwhelming, and the crit chance for slammer skills, you really don't need it when you're using the Woods Beast Sandals. That gives us 25% crit chance. With that we get to 35 for slammer, but if you take some crit chance from gear, you can get 5% on the helmet or more, 5% or more on the legs, and that gives you 35% with just the Woods Beast Sandals. So keep that in mind. Alternatively, you can also use a crit chance aura, and the crit chance aura with the Woods Beast Sandals already puts you at 40%. Then you don't need any in your gear, you don't need the crit passive. So if you have good defenses, I don't. My defenses, you can see even with the buff, are 49, 67, 57% and 49 for electrical. So without that buff, it's gonna be pretty bad. Let me quickly show you. See, it's 40, 65, 54. That's why I'd rather get that extra 9% physical, so I get some extra survivability. But if you don't need it, if you have good defense, you can maybe use the crit chance aura, and then you definitely won't need this skill. Hammer Spin is amazing with the tier 3 bonus. It gives us extra damage reduction shield, which can stack with the damage reduction that gets boosted from blasting charge. So you get 70% from the tier 2 bonus, which is 50 plus 20 from the tier 2 bonus when using any melee attack, which could be this or this. Those are melee attacks. And when using those, you get that 70% damage reduction, which can stack with this 50 multiplicatively. I'm gonna try and show you what I'm talking about. So you can see no damage reduction now. Boom. Now we have 50 plus 70% damage reduction, just by using Hammer Spin and hitting an enemy. So enough about the Slammer tree. Maybe just mentioning that Flying Picks is not bad if you want, if you don't like Torque Swing. Now on the conductor side of things, I've only put 4 points into Mortar Car for cooldowns to Railmaster skills, which soon is getting changed the same way the Disc Mage got changed, to give you cooldown to other things, such as item granted skills like Imbue Relic. So it's gonna become a cooldown reduction instead of cooldown for Railmaster skills. So it will give you extra 6 seconds cooldown reduced for Imbue Relic, which would put it down to 24. It puts it without the items to 54. If you don't have Frost Wall, that means it goes from 60 to 54. If you have the Frost Wall without the North Maze or the Glacier's Edge, it goes to 45 minus 6, which would be 39. And if you have Frost Wall with the North Maze, it goes to 30 minus 6, which would be 24. So for now, that extra 6 seconds you won't get, but eventually you will get it. Mortar Car's passive bonus also applies to things like Living Barrier on the Dusk Mage, which shaves off 2 seconds. Hopefully that would happen on the Railmaster with the next update and on the other heroes, because right now only the Dusk Mage benefits from this change. Now let's talk about the relic side of things. Dance of Death, very underwhelming skill. The damage is very low, and it just... I know that it's Blood Drinker, I know Blood Drinker is not supposed to do damage, but this does not heal us. This does not give us damage reduction, Dance of Death. So it might as well do as much damage as the other ultimates of the other relics that don't give us survivability do. To make it worth investing into, to max it out, to get those extra blades. And you see, you can get a lot of blades if you do this, E, then R, and then E, you get... See, that's 2 sets of blades. They're kind of stacked up one under the other. Sometimes they won't be stacked up, and you would see other blades in the middle of some of them, and that's how it will be. But yeah, Dance of Death needs a damage boost. Drain is fine. I wouldn't mind a little bit of a damage boost, but it's fine because it's a healing skill, and Drain with the healing makes sense to not do as much damage because it gives you healing. This one also makes to not do as much damage because it heals you. This one should get a damage boost because it doesn't heal or it doesn't give you damage reduction. And this one is something you might want to consider putting points into instead of Torque Swing, but I don't like how it knocks back enemies and how I don't have an option to convert this knockback into a pull. It's an amazing skill, but this whole tier 1 bonus kind of ruins it for melee builds for me, where you want the enemies next to you instead of away from you. Considering investing into Energizer is also another option. With the points that we spend here, we can remove those 8 points and put 5 here, and then the other 3 points, maybe we can put 2 points here and 1 point here maybe. There's things like this cooldown on Hammer Spin. I don't think it works. This extra reduction, hopefully that gets fixed as well. And it's not Hammer Spin, it's all movement skills somehow stop getting the reduction of their cooldowns, from what I'm seeing on across all classes. Rupture and Bloodletter are amazing, especially if you have another item like my shield socketed for bleeding, so you have more bleeding than just the Bloodletter. If you think you don't need Bloodletter because you think that the bleeding from your weapons, from your items is enough, then you can remove the points into Bloodletter and maybe put them into Energizer or elsewhere. That's not a bad choice. And if you want to use a basic attack, you can put points into Blades for cutting, and then remove Hailstorm and put the basic attack here. Instead of Hailstorm, you could also use the Glacier's Edge skill. The skill of the Glacier's Edge, let me try and show you the Glacier's Edge. This one, Frost Nova. It's a good one, and it has a very short cooldown. Actually, I'm gonna even show you what it looks like. By the way, this is what the North Mace looks like. This is what the Frost Wall looks like. Mine are remodeled, so keep that in mind. So this is the Glacier's Edge skill, Frost Nova, and with the Frost Wall bonus, it's down from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, and this is what it does. For one cast, it does two spikes of projectiles, two rounds of projectiles, and this is the Hailstorm. The Hailstorm basically allows you, while attacking, to trigger, to have a chance to trigger those projectiles. You have to be attacking though. As long as you're hitting, there's a chance for this projectile to appear. It doesn't do much damage, but it's still extra damage every now and then, so it's not bad. Optionally, but I would suggest strongly going for Berserk Crusher. Then Would-Be Sandals is optional. Liu General is also optional. There's other things worth equipping in the Legendarium, such as when they fix the Winter Weave Pauldrons to work on Railmasters, because just look at it right now. I'm gonna try and just show you what I mean by being broken. It works in the base, I think. On Forged it works in the base. On Railmaster it doesn't work even in the base. You're teleporting, but you're not really teleporting. You're not moving away. So they would be good when they fix them as something to put in the Legendarium. Winterweave Gauntlets, another thing worth putting in the Legendarium. Winterweave Cuirass, another thing worth putting in the Legendarium, considering that. I still suggest Liu General though. My ideal setup would be those 3 items: Woodsbeast Sandals, Berserk Crusher, Liu General, but it's flexible. You don't have to take the Woodsbeast Sandals or the Liu General if you don't want to or if you don't have them. So Winterweave pieces are a good idea. I wouldn't suggest another Ancient Ember piece because they just don't work well unless you're using the skills. So another thing that's worth it, Arc Powered Boots, not bad. Arc Powered Shoulders, it's decent, you can get a skill from those. As I mentioned, Winterweave Cuirass is pretty nice. Winterweave Pants is also nice for cooldown reduction, you can swat it there. Ancient Ember Chest only if you're using Living Barrier, if you put it into your skill. So I wanted to show you the Winterweave stuff. The Winterweave Gauntlets I showed you. Winterweave Cuirass, this is it. It's a good alternative. And Winterweave Boots is another good alternative to consider. Things like Wanderer Hood, not a bad alternative to consider as well. If you want survivability, Skittering Shoulders, not a bad alternative. Skittering Legs go well with melee builds, good option, good alternative. And Skittering Boots also not terrible. Quicksilver, another thing that's not that bad. And Headhunter could be a very good synergy with this build, because Headhunter's shrine effects would stack with the shrine effects we get from the Ancient Ember Shoulders. Let's show you this, what I mean. E-R-E. See, now we used two times our ultimate and we got Grounding Shrine and Shrine of Might, which actually doesn't give you 100% crit chance. It caps you at 40. So yeah, that's something to consider. You can stack that with the Headhunter. And I think that pretty much covers the Legendarium. I might have missed some items and maybe those would be on the text version on my website. For the pet skills, I prefer using Aura Defender for now because I needed the defense, but if I get enough defense I wouldn't mind switching to Deadlier Strikes and then removing crit chance from my items and just stacking the crit chance together with the Woodsbeast Sandals, or even removing the Woodsbeast Sandals when using Deadlier Strikes. It's not a bad thing to consider. I like using Healing Friendship, I like using Battle Cry for damage, and I like Zoomies. More about Zoomies and why I use it in the gear segment, but I'm gonna mention that it's a good synergy for Drat Neckband to hit faster, and for Invigoration Token to hit faster, to proc those quicker. This one doesn't work, I tested it last night. This one works, but this cooldown 30 seconds, it's casting it much, sometimes it's taking much longer than 30 seconds. This one I couldn't get to work, this one I couldn't get to work. This one I can't tell if it's working or not, because my pet evades even without the skill, which it's weird because I don't have evasion to pet items. So I think that's it for the skills. Next I can talk about the gear. It's not worth it taking 3 helmets just for that, but let's show you this, what I mean. E-R-E. See, now we used two times our ultimate and we got Grounding Shrine and Shrine of Might, which actually doesn't give you 100% crit chance. It caps you at 40. So yeah, that's something to consider. You can stack that with the Headhunter. And I think that pretty much covers the Legendarium. I might have missed some items and maybe those would be on the text version on my website. For the pet skills, I prefer using Aura Defender for now because I needed the defense, but if I get enough defense I wouldn't mind switching to Deadlier Strikes and then removing crit chance from my items and just stacking the crit chance together with the Woodsbeast Sandals, or even removing the Woodsbeast Sandals when using Deadlier Strikes. It's not a bad thing to consider. I like using Healing Friendship, I like using Battle Cry for damage, and I like Zoomies. More about Zoomies and why I use it in in the gear segment, but I'm gonna mention that it's a good synergy for Drat Neckband to hit faster, and for Invigoration Token to hit faster, to proc those quicker. This one doesn't work. I tested it last night. This one works, but this cooldown 30 seconds, it's casting it much. Sometimes it's taking much longer than 30 seconds. This one I couldn't get to work. This one I couldn't get to work. This one I can't tell if it's working or not, because my pet evades even without the skill, which it's weird because I don't have evasion to pet items. So I think that's it for the skills. Next I can talk about the gear. So here we are at the gear segment, where I'm gonna talk about some of the items I've taken for the build, why I've taken them, and some alternative choices if you don't have those items. I would start with the main hand and the shield, or offhand, depending on how you wanna play it. So first of all, we need a frost wall, and either the North Mace or the Glacier's Edge. As I mentioned in the previous segment, I've remodeled my North Mace and Frost Wall. This is what a Frost Wall looks like, this is what a North Mace looks like, as the icons. And this is a Glacier's Edge. Glacier's Edge can be put instead of the North Mace, whichever you get with better stats, better damage on it, use that one. Mine is completely trash. It gives me skill levels to a different class. Skill, it gives me damage to basic attacks, which I don't use for this, and that's actually broken. This bonus damage to basic attacks doesn't work. And at least it has a socket, so that's one thing that's worth it. And shock bolts fired on shock is good only if you're doing a shock build. Obviously that's trash for me. But using whatever you get, North Mace or Glacier's Edge, is nice together with the Frost Wall. If you equip the Frost Wall in the Legendarium and wear a Liu General, you can get more endurance regen but less defense. But on a my Liu General you can get some flat damage, which you can get on a shield. So if you think you have enough defense and you're ready to sacrifice the shield and maybe use a focus with some damage stats and stuff like that, that's fine. Liu General, you can swap the Liu General in here and swap the Frost Wall in the Legendarium, or vice versa. I'm putting Liu General in the Legendarium and Frost Wall equipped, but some people might want to do it vice versa. On the shield, the stats you would want is defense at the top, ideally like 10,000-ish defense at the top. Some block chance as close to 15% as you can. Then at the bottom you would want more defense and maybe elemental defense, or maybe a little bit more block chance, that depends. And then you want a socket, and in that socket I suggest putting bleed. If you don't think you need the bleed, then put what's its name, put some elemental or regular physical defense. On the weapon you would want flat damage at the top, which you always get, and then at the bottom you want 1, 2 or 3 types of flat damage. If you don't get 3, at least 2 types of flat damage, and maybe skill levels to Spike Drive, or skill levels to whatever other skill, like Dance of Death or Drain or Pound. So you can over level skills and get more damage for those skills after level 10 with the bonuses, so keep that in mind. Spike Drive probably would be the better thing to get if you want skill points. Or you can get 2 times flat damage and crit chance, or 2 times flat damage and crit damage, or 2 times flat damage and bleeding, and then you don't need to put bleeding here. Those are some options. Now, you need 3 pieces of the Cosmic Set. Keep in mind my gear is already modeled, the Cosmic Set doesn't look like that. I might try and show you what it looks like. This is what the Cosmic Set looks like. So you want 3 pieces of that set, and I would suggest Cosmic Helmet and Breastplate plus 1 more piece. And I think for me it really works well for this build to use Cosmic Gauntlet, so I think it's a must-have to be Helmet, Breastplate, Gauntlets, so that you can use Ancient Ember Boots, Ancient Ember Pants and Ancient Ember Shoulders, so you can get the set bonuses. I think it's really crucial for the way I've built this setup to have 3 pieces Ancient Ember. so you can get the set bonus, so you can recharge Dance of Death, so you can get not 10 but 20% chance to regain energy when using Drain. And this one is just a bonus. This one is a bonus, so just the problem is that the gauntlets of the Ancient Ember set don't work with our skills. They work with the Mayhem skill with Spinning Blade, that's why. And this one is kind of a bummer because it doesn't give us any gains, but we need it for the set bonus for those two, that's why. So those two items are kind of, maybe you can interchange them, but you're not gonna get much gains from swapping those. I've tested the gauntlets of the Ancient Ember set, and they don't work at all. That 2 or 4% chance to trigger Spinning Blade, whether you got points into Spinning Blade or not, it doesn't matter. I've tested it, it just doesn't wanna trigger it. I've tested so many times for a long time to see if I can get it to spawn those blades, and it just doesn't want to. I'm gonna try and show you. This is the item I'm talking about. So without, it just doesn't trigger. Unless they recently fixed it with the latest patch a few days ago, then it's broken. So alternative choices: Winter with Pauldrons, when they fix it, good alternative choice. Winter with Gauntlets, Winter with Cuirass, Woods Beast boots, if you don't have those yet. Skittering boots, not a bad choice. You can even use the Cosmic boots until you get those. It's not bad, and then you can maybe start using some basic attacks. And I think it's time to move on to talking about affixes. On the helmet, you can get crit chance, and you can get extra skill levels. And I would suggest extra skill levels to Spike Drive. That would be the ideal thing to get. Relic Energy Generation, Relic Energy Cost, not bad to have those stats. Extra defenses, sockets, obviously something that is always needed. On the boots, you can get crit damage and percent damage to a specific elemental damage. But this percent damage to a specific elemental damage, if you get percent physical, I've noticed it does not increase the damage of things like this and this that do physical damage. Those scale of weapon damage. They do it as physical, but the higher your weapon damage, basically the damage on your weapon, this damage here, this attack, and the higher this one is, the better. So if I get percent ice damage, this would increase my damage because I've got ice. If I get percent fire, it would also give me some gains, not much, because I don't have as much fire, but yeah, whatever your highest number here is, in my case ice, that one would be good as elemental. But I think the priority on the boots should be things like extra crit damage and maybe defenses. And bleed duration is not bad, but not mandatory. Now another good thing would be to mention what you can get on the pants. On the pants you can get crit chance, you can get flat damage, you can get damage to a certain skill, such as this one, damage to Spike Drive. And that's amazing. Damage with Spike Drive, damage with Pound, those could be good for you. You only can get it for quas skills, not for subquas skills, so you cannot get, unfortunately, damage to Drain. I wish they would make it so we could get damage to the relic skills on the helmet, gauntlets and boots, so we can stack it with the damage to quas skills on the pants, chest and shoulders. So this damage to Spike Drive you can get on the legs, on the chest and on the shoulders, and ideally you would have that road on all three of those pieces. So this should give you like 30+% damage to Spike Drive, this should give you 30% plus damage to Spike Drive, and this should give you 30+% damage to Spike Drive. Then this one ideally would give you flat damage or crit chance on top of that, this one ideally would give you flat damage or crit damage, and this one would give you crit damage on top of that. Avoid goldwork. Gearwork is not bad, but it's only good until a certain point, and then after that you don't need anymore, it caps at 100%. It's probably much better to get offensive stats than farming stats. out avoid knockback, and percent elemental damage, as I mentioned again, it's only worth it if it's of your highest damage and if you stack them. You can get percent elemental here, here, and you used to be able to get it here. I haven't seen percent elemental on Lex, maybe they removed it. So just those two pieces I think for now can roll on this one. But priority would be flat damage here and here after the percent damage to a certain skill. If you don't want percent damage to a certain skill, obviously flat is better because flat damage works on everything, whereas the percent damage to the skill only works on that skill. But keep that in mind. And for the gauntlets, relic energy cost is good, relic energy generation is good, and maybe extra block chance or evasion or gear work or even more defenses is pretty decent. Evasion and block chance cap at 40%, so keep that in mind when stacking those stats. And now let's move on to the pet. Drat neckband, token of invigoration and rapid bartering are my preferred choices. If you don't send your pet to the town as often, then remove the rapid bartering. That's fine. I like Drat neckband because it helps heal. I like invigoration because it refreshes the pet skills, including the healing. And I like stacking pet attack speed and cooldown reduction to pet skills when I can. So ideally here you would have pet attack speed, and then instead of HP per second you would have cooldown to pet skills reduction. And those two stats you would have here, and then here in the socket you would have cooldown for the pet, here in the socket you would have cooldown for the pet, and here in the socket you would have whatever, like you can get cooldown, so maybe defense or block chance or whatever. Whatever works for you. And that's pretty much it for the gear. I guess if I've missed something, you can check on my website. Maybe there will be something written there that I forgot to say here. And let's move on to showing you some more gameplay footage of the build. Here we are at the gameplay segment where I'm gonna show you more of the build in action, talk about some of the skill rotations and ways to combine certain skills one after the other. I think the best combo for the relic side of things, is when you have the Blood Drinker's Dance of Death, this skill with the blades spinning around you, ready to use it. And to use Imbue Relic if it's ready immediately and use it again, so you can stack all those blades together. And you also ideally before using Imbue Relic dump all the energy with Drain. Although the problem with Drain is Drain does not do extra additional damage by using it multiple times. Yes, it does the first damage. So, you know, if you have level 10 Drain, it does damage, and then shortly after it does another wave of damage. But that other wave of damage only gets applied to the latest cast of Drain, unless you wait for the first one to do both hits. And I think they need to fix this, because now if I use Drain 5 times in a row, I'm only gonna get 5 hits plus 1 instead of 5 hits plus 5. But yeah, do that, so stack the Dance of Death together. And for the Railmaster combo, obviously you want to start with the Explosive, with Blasting Charge, and then do Spike Drive twice, then maybe use the pull, and then use Pound, and that kind of is it. It's not that hard to do that combo. To get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games like this one, which would be wooters of all varieties, isometric, third-person ARPGs, wooter shooters and all sorts of wooters like that, you could subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on my content updates. And optionally, you can even join as a member of the Struck Club on YouTube as a channel member to get access to exclusive perks such as special emotes custom made by me, special badges custom made by me that represents how many months you have been a member for, as well as opt-in of editing tutorials that I can give for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, as well as shoutouts and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and keeping me going. Thank you also for watching this video, everyone. Keep it cool, Struck Club. Until next time, and goodbye.